These days, when you look at the news, Germany often appears cautious, restrained, almost passive in global conflicts. But Germany was not always like this. To understand why, we need to go back to World War II. This was not just a war. It was the largest armed conflict humanity has ever known. A global collapse that dragged entire continents into violence and cost more than 60 million lives. This is World War II. After World War I, Germany and its allies were defeated and blamed entirely for the conflict. The Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires were dismantled. Germany was stripped of land, colonies, and forced to repay an enormous debt. To the German people, this was not justice, it was humiliation. Their economy collapsed, hyperinflation spiraled out of control, money became worthless. By 1923, the German mark had lost its value by 1 trillion times. People carried banknotes in wheelbarrows and still couldn't afford bread. Temporary recovery followed the chaos of hyperinflation and political instability in Germany. People hoped for a return to normalcy, but those hopes were short-lived. In 1929, the Wall Street crash triggered the worst economic crisis of the 20th century. Unemployment exploded across the globe. Entire families were left destitute. Businesses collapsed. Desperation spread like wildfire through the streets of Europe. And in that vacuum, extremism took root. By 1933, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party had seized power. Germany became a totalitarian state overnight. The army was rebuilt, military service was restored, and the nation was reshaped under a single ideology. The dream of a greater Germany began to take form, fueled by nationalism, resentment, and fear. The world watched as a country weakened by war and economic collapse transformed into a terrifying power once more. Italy followed a parallel path. Under Benito Mussolini's fascist regime, the country pursued its ambitions of conquest. Ethiopia fell to Italian forces, and plans for further expansion were quietly set into motion. Meanwhile, Spain descended into civil war. On one side stood the Republicans, supported by the USSR and international volunteers. On the other, the nationalists, led by Francisco Franco, backed by Germany and Italy. This brutal conflict became a testing ground for new weapons, tactics, and alliances, the early rumblings of the Axis. In Asia, Japan pursued its imperial ambitions with brutal efficiency. China was invaded, cities burned, villages were massacred, chemical weapons were deployed, and millions of civilians were killed, enslaved, or forced into labor. The world was sliding steadily toward catastrophe. Meanwhile, Germany moved decisively. Austria was annexed. Czechoslovakia was dismantled. Lithuanian territories were seized. Then came the unthinkable. Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact, secretly agreeing to divide Europe between them. The stage was set. On September 1, 1939, German troops crossed into Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war. World War II had begun. Germany struck with a terrifying new strategy, Blitzkrieg, fast, relentless, devastating. Denmark fell, Norway fell. Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, all collapsed within days. France crumbled, Paris fell under German occupation. Britain stood alone. German bombers rained destruction on cities, devastating neighborhoods and civilians alike. Yet the island nation resisted. The invasion failed. Hitler turned his sights eastward. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history. Millions of soldiers surged into the Soviet Union. Leningrad was besieged for nearly 900 days, trapping civilians in a frozen nightmare. Over 1 million perished. German forces reached Moscow only to be halted by the brutal Russian winter. Behind the front lines, horrors unfolded on a massive scale. The Holocaust, a systematic genocide, claimed millions of lives. Jews, Roma, political opponents, homosexuals, people with disabilities, all were hunted, imprisoned, and exterminated in industrialized death camps. The world looked on in horror, unable to stop it. In Asia, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. The United States, previously neutral, entered the war. The conflict was now truly global. Allied landings began in North Africa. Italian forces collapsed. Germany was forced to fight on multiple fronts. The Soviets pressed westward, reclaiming lost territory. The Allies advanced from the west, liberating cities and nations one by one. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. Hundreds of thousands of troops risked everything to reclaim Europe. France was liberated and Germany found itself surrounded. The tide had turned. On April 30, 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker beneath Berlin. 8 days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. Japan continued fighting, hoping for a miracle. But in August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was unimaginable. Civilians paid the ultimate price, raising questions that would haunt humanity long after the war ended. Japan surrendered shortly after. 6 long years, over 60 million lives lost, entire cities reduced to rubble. Europe lay exhausted, broken, and scarred. 2 superpowers emerged from the chaos, the United States and the Soviet Union, and though World War II had ended, the struggle for global dominance had only just begun. The Cold War was waiting. Thank you for watching. If there's a specific period or event in history you'd like us to cover next, let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. There's plenty more history waiting for you.